Hey family, it's your boy Silas Abiodun. Welcome to Silas Abiodun YouTube channel. Relationship Fair, building quality relationship. We've had 3 episodes so far. Relationship and forgiveness, relationship and selflessness, relationship and purpose. Now, relationship and communication. This is very important if you're going to build quality relationships. If you're going to communicate effectively in your relationships, it must be the language of your audience. And this of course applies to all kinds of relationships. That's why you find out in most of the global events, there's going to be a person who is communicating in sign language, and you have the other person or the main person communicating in general language. And that's because they accommodate a type of audience that would not understand your English, your Spanish, but what they would understand is the signs. So the primary thing is communicating in the language of your audience. And even in romantic relationship, you have to be able to communicate in the language of the partner. And now, when we talk about communication, there are many things we communicate. You communicate your values, you communicate your expectations, you communicate your vision, you communicate your fears, your concerns, your worries. You communicate your plans. Communication is key. I was going through this article from Psych Central. It's a journal online. You can find out psychcentral.com. And they define assumption as a passive way to live. And let me tell you, I won't even just say it's a passive way to live. I will say assumption is a lazy way to relate. Stop assuming. Like you're stressing yourself out. The things we don't want to do because we're lazy, you realize that we are actually going to spend more energy to do them at the time we don't want to. So listen to me. Go get the facts and relate based on facts, not assumptions. Assumptions will kill your relationship, but communication will save the relationship. You can't afford to decide without or before discussing. No. When you communicate, when you discuss, you have the substance with which to make a decision. And we do this all the time in our relationships. And that's why we have problems. We decide, we conclude, we judge, then we discuss, then we ask leading questions, then we try to justify our decision that was based on research. And we need to avoid these things if you're going to have a successful relationship. For example, there can be something that happened, and you could say the way you spoke to the taxi driver was rude. I don't think that's right. Or you could say you were rude. That's one way to express a point. But guess what? You could also say, I feel somewhat disappointed by the way you spoke to the taxi driver. I think that was good. Now, from your own perspective, which do you think communicates the point better? Because you're in a relationship, and once you conclude, once you make the other party the subject, and you make yourself the judge, you've created a barrier. But when you express your feeling, if the person values your feelings, then the person will be able to identify with your feelings and see that in the light of what they did. So I feel disappointed when the way you spoke. I feel that was too good. The person looks at us, okay, you feel. Then the person comes. But when you say you are rude, when you begin to make that person the subject and you place yourself as a judge, that communication is going to be ineffective and you wouldn't achieve it. So it's very important to understand these things even as we communicate. The only difference between poor communication and no communication is the type of depth that the relationship experiences. Now, even as we communicate, there's something called the tone and the pitch of your voice. You see, you can't afford to raise your voice, and this happens to many people. See, that's my personality. That is who I am. Once it gets to me, once I'm passionate, I mean, it's going to be seen as being rude when you shout, when you raise your voice on the person that is speaking to. So in a relationship, no matter what might have happened, it's very important you're able to manage your emotions and maintain a soft tone and a moderate condition. That you express, you communicate whatever it is, your feelings, but then you are not, allowing that loud, just like you're writing in bold capital letters to someone as a letter. You're not going to take that serious because you're basically giving a threat. You're basically, that's loud, that's as soon as you're unacceptable. You have to relax and you have to communicate in a way that it's going to show and control yourself. Right? Then the choice of words is also important when you communicate with someone. Some persons don't see this as anything and they say anything to anyone. I can take that bullshit for example. Just once and they believe they are justified for doing that. No. You can't just pull out any word and just say that to your partner or to your pastor or to your parents or to your siblings. You cannot do that. And let me tell you, one of the problems is that we are in a generation where people don't consider having the word of God in their heart. I'm saying this, I understand not even everybody in my audience read the Bible. But let me tell you, if you have a lot of God's word in your heart, it's going to influence your choice of words. Some vocabularies will just not conveniently come out of your mouth. So it's very important you consider that. If you find it very easy for you to use curse words, then it's most likely you don't meditate so deeply on the words of God. So there's a way God communicates, and if you're a child of God, you would learn from that. So in communication, you need to pay attention to the tone, to the pitch. You need to pay attention to the choice of words, because you have made assumptions. So run away from assumptions. You can't say you know exactly, but I meant it. No. Speak. Talk about it. And don't act based on assumption. Don't give attitude based on assumption. I can't read your lips. I can't read your heart. So don't speak. When you act based on misinformation, that's assumption. Don't do that. Get the facts. Then act based on the facts. And the only way you can get the facts is by communication, asking questions, clarity. Now, it's also important you are not silent when you should speak, because silence is also a way of communication. You generally said that silence means consent. But then you can actually be passively aggressive, but you are silent to, in quotes, let the sleeping dog lie. Something like that. No. Don't keep silent. Communicate if it's important to you, no matter what. Now, be sensitive to understand the best time to communicate certain things. So we must be able to understand that. But eventually, it's important to communicate. And it's better to communicate before conclusion. We discuss before deciding. Right? That really help in building quality relationship. And today's episode is not strictly for a marital relationship or something, but it applies to every form of relationship you find yourself. It's very important. If something is important to you, talk about it. Don't assume. Talk about it. Let's play a game. That will strongly help in relationships. I started by saying the things we should communicate. Make sure that you communicate your expectations, communicate your fears and your concerns, communicate your questions, communicate your doubts, communicate your vision, right? Communicate your vision. Even in leadership, you have persons who are working with you, who are subordinates in quotes, Communicate your visions, communicate your dreams, communicate what you expect to see. It's very, very important, communication. Now, this might require you to actually develop yourself, because sometimes you don't know the exact what you use, so you just may not be aware that this is not right. So you might need to actually expose yourself or speak to people how best to communicate certain things. You can lose significant relationships just by virtue of the communication. So it's something to pay attention to. Now finally, let me say this. It's possible, sometimes we hide communication so much and we think everything boils down to communication. But guess what? It's possible the strain in communication is caused by something else. So there can be a challenge, and it is really that thing that is affecting communication. Not that the diagnosis is communication, but actually the problem you are seeing with communication is a symptom of a major issue. For example, somebody recently does not show gratitude for something, and it's now more like a relationship that is based on entitlement. And if somebody does this, and the person is no longer as grateful and expressive in that gratitude as would be. There is a possibility that the other party will just tone down on certain things, and you might now find out that what's going on. This person doesn't communicate that law like would normally do. In that situation, the communication strain is a symptom. There are times where the real problem is that you are not communicating, and when you get to communicate, effectively, everything gets restored. But then it's possible it's still a problem that's affecting the communication and not the communication in itself. So even if you are communicating, but then the problems are not solved, we still basically be deceiving ourselves. So it's very important that even as we communicate, we make adjustments, we make changes, because we can communicate and make a difference. So as we communicate, we all on the same page. And as we get on the same page, we act based on facts, we minimize assumptions, and that way we are all in sync. And everybody's happy. The relationship and communication. Very important. Let me know your experience around this. Together we can learn from one another. So that's it. Relationship fair, building quality relationship. Please subscribe to Silas Abiola YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, click on the notification bell, and share. Thank you. See you in our next episode.